Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10 Quick Hit Podcast to get you ready for the day. A lot of baseball talk here, some interesting, some expected, and some not so expected, based on some news that we got yesterday afternoon involving Tucupita Marcano. We'll get into all of that, as well as prepare you for a series against Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight at PNC Park. But first, I want to remind you that we're sponsored by the North Shore Tavern. You don't have to be a baseball fan to love it there. The interior is wall-to-wall Pirates. There are appetizers, entrees, cocktails, and of course, steak and seafood on a sizzling lava stone. Open every day. The North Shore Tavern across from PNC Park is Pittsburgh's home for steak on a stone. So I'm going to start with a story that I wrote today for A1 about Shohei Ohtani, him coming into town, the Dodgers, what this means for two of the Pirates' top young pitchers, two of Major League Baseball's top young pitchers, honestly, and Jared Jones and Paul Skenes. There's an interesting parallel here that I hope I got to, and it sort of involves Ohtani, but it just involves sort of facing your childhood heroes or the mystique of them, something like that, where Jared Jones grew up a Dodgers fan. Paul Skenes grew up an Angels fan, and they were both two-way guys. And, Skenes was there when Shohei Ohtani made his Angels Stadium debut. He was dominant, obviously. Ohtani wasn't the only Angels player that Skenes loved. Like Jared Weaver, John Lackey are a couple guys that he grew up really liking to watch pitch. So it's not just about Ohtani. And Ohtani's obviously not pitching, but this is a marquee matchup. It's as marquee as it gets, both because of Ohtani and the Dodgers. Jared Jones going tonight, Skenes going tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of attention on PNC Park. I would imagine the crowds are very good. I know I'm personally looking forward to it. So I sought to see how it would play with those guys. Yesterday being an off day, I was not with the club on the road, obviously, so access to players was limited, but I decided to call a guy named Jimmy Zern, who is Jared Jones' high school coach, and also tracked down Paul Skenes' high school coach to kind of talk about what it was like for them growing up as kids, how much they talked about it, and learn some interesting stuff. I'll start with Mike Gonzalez, Paul Skenes' coach at El Toro, said that, he was he respected Ohtani and liked watching Ohtani because he was a great player, but, Paul's just not the type to kind of be awestruck by anything. And I guess that's the genesis of what we can expect from those guys tonight and tomorrow. Nobody's going to be awestruck by anything. This is another game. They want to compete. It's a chance to compete against the best in the world. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you about the quality of Ohtani's work, but how those guys are able to process it. And I also decided to call Bob Walk because I think he's got an interesting, and Bob Walk is a good phone call to make anytime. I love talking to Bob, but he's got an interesting sort of history. When he debuted, it gave up a home run to Willie Stargell in the first inning. Like, things worked out okay for Bob, but he was talking to me about how some of his idols and people that he loved watching as a kid, they just felt larger than life. He talked about Nolan Ryan and, wanting to be on the top step of the dugout whenever they faced Nolan Ryan. He actually never hit against Nolan Ryan, but was always like curious what it was like in this experience. And so that's sort of what you're getting with Ohtani, Jones, and Skenes, but it's not quite that. That's when my conversation with Bob kind of shifted to the young guys and how do you think they're going to handle it? And we both agreed that it's not going to be like Bob. It's not going to be like most people. Like, these guys are clearly wired differently. We're seeing that. It's a lot of fun to watch. So, I mean, they're going to like and respect and enjoy facing Shohei Ohtani, but certainly not going to be, oh my goodness, it's Shohei Ohtani. It's not going to be one of those things. But I'll be interested to see what kind of Ohtani they get. Obviously, he's not pitching. He's out with Tommy John. We know that. He'll be back next year. Been a little bit quiet over the past couple, 3 for 19 with 7 strikeouts over his last 5. But Ohtani still, has put up some monster numbers, 14 homers, 988 OPS, 322 average, 137 total bases. That's third in MLB. So, I think they're going to have to worry about him a little bit. Ohtani, by the way, has been fairly quiet against the Pirates, a 286 hitter in 6 games, homered for the first time against them in Los Angeles last year, which takes us to another talking point for the Pirates. Henry Davis, who homered twice off of Ohtani, by the way, and will be back with the team. I'll be curious to see where this goes, and I think it's an important return stint for Henry. Sending down Grant Cook, I would imagine, is the move that they make, as much as, maybe they hoped that Grant Cook would add something at the time. I think it was basically just to buy time for Henry in AAA and allow some of the adjustments or reversions. Maybe that's a way of saying it. Just, going back to what he was doing, allowing that to take hold a little bit more. Henry has produced some excellent results in the minor leagues. So again, they need them to translate up here. Joey Bart is injured. Grant Cook is really not an option. They're going to have to make a decision on Jason DeLay, although he has options. Yasmani Grandal is on the team. I think they'd probably like that to be a timeshare, or Grandal to be a little bit more of a backup. He just has not added enough of the bat. So that takes us to Henry Davis, where he's going to have an opportunity to win a lot of playing time. The Pirates need him to earn that playing time. They need to start finding something from Henry Davis, Jack Sawinski, and other guys that they expected to be a part of this offense who just haven't been. I'm intrigued by what Rowdy Tellez did in Toronto. Maybe that is finding something. If you notice, there was a quote from Rowdy in that game talking about how he basically just said, screw it. And he went back to the way that he used to hit. On the surface, that sounds somewhat problematic. I look at it like, well, what were you trying to do? What were you coached to do here? But bottom line, end of the day, they just need results. So I don't really care how you get there. But we're seeing a lot of guys like scrap what they're doing with the Pirates major league team and go back to something else, and that's theoretically leading to success. I don't know what that's going to lead to with Rowdy. We'll see. But that is a little bit concerning. In any case, for Rowdy to get going, for Henry to get going, for Jack to inevitably get going, they need Michael A. Taylor to get going. That's what's going to be propelling this thing forward, in my opinion. The starting pitching has been too good to waste. I do think they have some pieces in the bullpen. I wish they had more. That is certainly a concern right now. I think it should be after the May that those guys produced. But I think that, when I talked on here yesterday about Ben Cherington's comments about, them being better, I think that's probably, if I had to guess, kind of what he's getting at. Like there's the potential there to be better. I would just argue that it has not been. And that has been frustrating to people that, they can kind of see where this should go, where this could go, what these guys' capabilities are, and they have not been realized. And people are within their rights to feel frustrated. All right, a couple more topics I wanted to hit on. The Tucupita Marcano thing, I could not be more stunned by this being a thing. Tucupita Marcano, while I covered him, was one of the most mild-mannered, quiet people you could ever betting on baseball was not within a solar system of a possibility when I looked at Marcano. That being said, I don't think something gets this far down the line where he's being investigated for something so serious without there being some smoke there. And I made some calls, fired off some texts, reached out to as many people as I could. A lot of them did not answer, which I certainly understand and respect. Guys who are still in the game, you don't want to touch that. And some people did agree to speak with me on background, which was appreciated. But what I learned was that Marcano definitely enjoyed a casino. I don't know if we can link one to the other, but hearing some of it being known how much he liked to gamble, how familiar he was with it. Not on baseball. Nobody saw that, but he liked some blackjack. He liked to risk some money. Which my point on this is that baseball and all professional sports, not that you're encouraging betting on the sport itself, because you're not, but they're in bed with these gambling companies as much as they are. Like, this is going to happen. I mean, you're encouraging this. These guys have already had to bet so much on themselves, and now, I mean, you're just not encouraging betting, but you're normalizing it. And I worry that we're going to see more of this stuff, where guys just have access to it. They maybe somebody has a predilection for a gambling problem, and maybe that's what Marcano had. I don't know. I'm not capable of diagnosing him, but I know that he seemed to enjoy the risk that went along with gambling, the risk reward, winning money, etc. So I just the more the relationship with gambling grows, the more it worries me about how it affects players. All right, a couple quick hit points. Losing some, not losing steam, but Justin Jefferson's 4-year contract extension for $140 million over in the NFL made me think a little bit. It made me think about Brandon Aiyuk and the possibility of what the Steelers could wind up getting for a second wide receiver. If that's the money dangling out there, I don't know if that makes sense for the Steelers to go anywhere near that. And if that's what Aiyuk wants, that might create a no-fly zone. That's going to be awfully difficult. I might have that money earmarked to pay George Pickens. We'll see. I think if he has the year that I think he could have, that would make sense. But you're not going to pay two guys that amount of money. You're probably going to be looking at something cheaper, which takes me to maybe a Cortland Sutton option. I mean, we've seen them, associated in various degrees with like a Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Brandon Aiyuk. We love those guys as players, but the contracts, the price tags are hefty. So, I mean, maybe that shifts attention elsewhere. That was my first reaction when I saw the Jefferson deal. Anyway, and we know this. I'm a couple days late on it, but the Stanley Cup final is set as well. The Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. I think this should be pretty entertaining. I look at this too, and I think about one. Paul Maurice is like one of my favorite coaches to observe. He had a really good relationship with Jim Rutherford. I remember talking to Paul about a Jim Hall of Fame story I did, and he could not have been more gracious. He's one of the better, more media accessible coaches out there. But I also look at those teams and think, like, how do the Penguins stack up against them? And I mean, those are elite power plays. They're two of the top 8, I should say. I think they're 4 and 8 in the NHL this regular season. But I mean, there's some firepower on there. There's some offensive generation. I think the Penguins can look at that and really try to mimic some stuff in terms of like shot volume and what sort of pace you play at. If I'm the Penguins, they're doing their own internal assessments, but I wish we could see some of the offensive generation here that those teams are able to generate. Anyway, that does it for me today. I wish I could talk more, but I've already gone about 2 minutes over. So thank you guys for watching and listening and putting up with it every day. We'll be back here, same time, same place tomorrow. And make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all this content and other stuff from our Post-Gazette writers here on the North Shore Drive.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.